Ladles and jelly spoons, welcome back to Badgerworks. Today, this. Yes, we're still on this diorama. Hopefully this will be the last video. This has become quite a saga now. Anyway, so the last time you saw this, we were getting ready to wire it up and put all the bits in it, which is what we're going to do today. So since you last saw this, I have, as you can see, mounted it on the base, and that was just done with a few little screws through the bottom there, and I have mounted the end and the back, and that was done with super glue and a couple of screws. So this is all nice and firm now, it's not going anywhere, and it's basically ready to go. I did put one item on, I put the bucket on. I got a bit carried away with that and I put the bucket on. What are you going to do? Anyway, so what we need to do is start putting the electronics on. So let's get on with it. Right, so we have our box. Oh, blimey, that's black. We have our box that the diorama will be going on, and we have our hole in the back, which is for our 30mm wargaming base. You may remember from the previous video when we made this box, we made this hole in the back, we put that in there, and it's somewhere to put all our electrical bits and pieces. So what do we need? So we need obviously the wargaming base, we need a battery. This is a 3.7 volt lithium polymer battery, 750 milliamp hour. Doesn't really matter about the milliamp hours, this is purely just, this was the battery I had. This one comes with a JST connector on it. Now I happen to have a load of these adapter wires that plug in like that, and then you solder this onto whatever you want, and then if you want to disconnect the battery you can just pull it off. So we will be using this. You don't need to use that. If you want, you can just cut that plug off and use that. And that goes on to our charging circuit. You've seen me use these before. It's a 5 volt charging circuit. So basically you take the wires for the battery and you solder them on, and then you take the power out from that. So obviously we need that. We need a switch. This is a torch switch, just a little click on off torch switch. If you want to buy these, look on eBay or Amazon. They are literally called torch switches, so if you want them, that's what you search for. And also one final thing is this. This is a piece of clear frame. This is actually from the HE162 Salamander, the Hobby Boss kit we did a little while ago. And I'm going to use this, or a piece of this, to transfer the charging status lights here out to the front so we can see them from outside the case. So we'll need that later as well. So we can start thinking about soldering all this stuff together now. So before we start soldering all this together, what I want to do is cut the holes in this wargaming base so everything will fit, because basically it's just a little bit easier to do with it all apart. If you can do it afterwards, it doesn't matter. So what we need to do is cut a slot for the USB plug to go through. We need a hole for the switch to go through, and we also need a hole for the sprue to go through so we can see our charging lights. So this I've already measured, it's 4mm. From previous experience you need a slot 4mm wide for this, and this is 7mm. So we need to make some holes in this accordingly. Right, now the nice thing about this base is it has this slot in the back of it, and it also has a hole already marked. So what I'm going to do is what I normally do, and hopefully you can see this alright, I put the board in that slot. Now obviously it won't fit at the moment because that's in the way. So what we do is we get some snippers and we get a knife, and what we do is this. We put that in the middle like that, and we mark either side like that, and that. And then we cut through like so. Like that. And then we take our snippers and we cut in at an angle like that. And if you want, you can do it like that and like that. And you just cut down at like as low an angle as you can get, like that, and just cut off as much as you can with the clippers. And then after that, I'm afraid it's a case of having to get in there with a knife and clean it out as best you can, which is not easy, but it is doable. I've done it many times. Just obviously mind your fingers. What you want to do is try and get the bottom of this as flat as possible, because we're going to drill some holes in it. Right, that'll do for now. So now that will fit in there a little bit better, you see. Still not all the way in, but it will go in a bit further. So now what we need to do is we need to take our drill, and this is just a 2mm drill because we'll open the hole up afterwards. And what I'm going to do is, it's quite difficult to show you how to do this, but you basically go down the side where we've cut, just go down like that and make a hole through the plastic like that, you see, and then do the same at the other end. Like that. Again, mind your fingers. The amount of times, honestly, I have stuck a screwdriver bit into my fingers, you wouldn't believe. Anyway, so there we have 2 holes. Okay, now we need these holes to be slightly bigger, because, as I said, this is 4mm. So what we do now is we enlarge those holes using a 4mm drill bit, like so. Oh, so I'm just trying to do this without catching my hand on the camera. Like that. So there's one, and then we'll do the other one like that. Now we take our snips and we cut that side, cut that side, cut that piece out the middle. Now you might need to get in there with your knife and clean it up a bit, but we'll try and see. But now you see we have a nice little hole for our charging circuit. And also, again, I'm really not sure how well you're going to be able to see that, but the board is now butted up against the base, so it's in there, it can't rock from side to side, it's in there nice and securely. And we'll stick that in a little while with some hot glue, but not yet. So that's the first thing. Next thing we need to do is drill a hole for our charging light, and I'm going to use this here, and I'm just going to basically go through the middle, or as near to the middle as I can get, doing it at this rather weird angle, and just doing the same thing as before. Just drill through with a smaller drill first, and then finish it off with the 4mm, like that. So that's our second hole. So if I just cut a piece of this off, I'll show you how it fits. So we want a fairly big bit to start with, because we want to basically, you want to cut quite a lot of this, because you can always cut it to length afterwards, but it's better to make it way too long and then trim it to size than go and put it on and it's like, oh, it won't fit. And you see there, that fits quite nicely in that hole there. So how that will work, just for interest, is when that's in there, like so, and we've got our charging lights here and here, and what we'll do is we'll run this down, and we'll obviously cut it to length, but that will sit on top of the charging lights, and when they come on, the light will, this will act like a fibre optic and carry that light to the outside, so you can see the charging lights from the outside. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Now we need to drill another hole at the bottom here for our switch, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because although that switch will fit quite nicely in there, you will notice that we need to drill a hole a bit further down, a bit down from the end, so we need to basically calculate how far down that needs to be. So if we get some form of measuring implement, in this case my ruler, and we basically put that up against the side there, we'll go from 10mm so it's easier to see, and from the edge of, oh, I'm nowhere near the camera, sorry, so we'll line it up like that, and it is from the edge of the switch to the center of the switch is 3.5mm. So we need to basically come in 3.5mm and drill a pilot hole. So we'll put that on there like that, and again, it's not going to be pretty, but just do the best you can. Take an even smaller drill this time, and we come down right on the 3.5mm mark and just make a little divot in the plastic there, you see, and now we can drill it out. So we drill our pilot hole, and we'll stretch this out to 4mm. To be honest, I normally do this on the drill press because it's a lot easier and a lot quicker, but I'll do it here just so you can see what I'm doing. And then we take the rustiest, nastiest 7mm drill bit in the world, but it will do the job, and we'll just open that hole out to 7mm. Oh, that's coming through from this side. There we go. You can always clean up the hole with a knife if you need to. And now that should fit in there like that. Oh, I'll clean the hole up a bit, hang on. Right, there we go, that's in there now. I actually put it a little tiny touch too close to the side, so I had to just open it up a little bit. So I've just so you can see, I've just removed a little bit of material from there. So, but that's okay, it doesn't matter. That now fits in there, actually fits in there a lot better than normal. I might start doing that deliberately in future. So that goes in there like that. That goes in there like that. And then our piece of sprue goes out through the top there. And then it all falls off because none of it's glued on properly. So now, finally, we've got all that done. We can start soldering all of this together. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is solder this adapter onto the charger. As I mentioned before, if you don't have one of these, it's fine. Just snip that end off and strip the wires back and just solder the battery straight to it. It's just, I do it this way because it just makes life a bit easier. So we go positive to positive. Now notice that we've got out negative, out positive, battery negative. So we want to connect the battery leads to the battery positive and negative. And they go like that. And we'll just fold them over on the back. Like that. So I've just folded those over. Like that. Then we do a bit of soldering paste. Like that. Bit of solder. And touch it on like that, and it solders the joint. There we go. So now when we plug our battery into that, we can we'll have the ability to charge it. Now we also want to put a wire. We obviously need an out positive and negative. So we need the switch, and we need some wire. Now we only need a short piece, because obviously the switch basically lives underneath the charging circuit, so we only need a short piece. So I'll do a bit kind of that long, because that gives us a bit of wiggle room. And also what happens sometimes when you try and strip these very thin wires, they just snap. So by making the wire a bit longer than it needs to be, if you do snap the end off, it doesn't, you can go back and do it again. But there we go, like that. I'll just spin that up, make sure it's nice and tight. Then we put that through the positive, like that. Let's just move that out of the way for a second. And again, a bit of soldering paste. So this is quite awkward doing this from behind the camera, but what can you do? Solder, and there we go. And we'll also do the front side. Like that. Just a bit of belt and braces. So that's on there nice and secure. Then we'll bring in our handy little helping hand, because these things are absolutely genius, and if you don't have one, get one, because they make life so much easier when you're doing work like this. And what we want to do is hold that like that. Bit of soldering paste on there. Bit of soldering paste on there. I'm going to end up dropping this soldering iron in my lap in a minute. And solder, put that on there like that, and hold it there, and you'll see the solder kind of goes grey, and that means it's gone off. That's on there nice and securely. So now we've got our switch wired up, and we also need a bit for the negative side. So what I'm going to do is just cut a piece off like that, just a random length, and solder it onto the negative side. Right, so the last thing we need to do for now is just attach another piece of live wire, or positive wire, to the other side of the switch. So I'll just solder that on quickly. Soldering paste. bit on the wire. Bit of solder. Put that on the switch and there it goes. Right, so this is all now ready to be fitted into our base plate. Right, while we're just waiting for the hot glue gun to warm up, I'll just cut this piece of sprue to length. So basically what we want to do is try and get it to sit on top of those LEDs. So I'm going to cut it off at an angle about 45 degrees with the snips, just like that. Now if we put those back in like that and then pop that through there like that, that should sit kind of like that. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to use the glue to help to diffract the light. So that's why we only need one of these and not two, because basically only one of them will be lit up at any given time. So that will help to diffuse the light. So that's fine. Now for the next trick we need to get the switch back in. So we'll just bend these up out of the way, the tabs, like that, just so that they're pointing in a more appropriate direction. We'll put that back into the hole like that, and we'll glue that in first. And this is where you end up burning your fingers, but that's one of the joys of hot glue. Useful stuff, but hot. Gob in there as well, and then make sure the switch is in place, which it is, and let that glue cool off for a second. Okay, now, oh, I've glued the wire to it, never mind, that's alright. Let's say this is some hot stuff. Right, now we put that there like that, and we squeeze some glue in there. And on the other side as well, like that. And then we wait for that to cool down a bit. We'll probably need to put more on, but we'll see about that in a moment. Now we take this. Now what we want, now we need to be quick with this because we need to do this before the glue dries. So what we do is we put a nice blob of this over our LEDs like that. Then we take our piece of plastic and we basically just push that into the glue like that and let it sit there, and then let all that set. Right, so that's all cured now. I put a little bit more underneath as well just to help it a little bit more, but that's all secured. Now to show you how this works, the charging light, if I plug the USB cable in, you can see the light lights up, and that's carrying that through to the front, and if I connect the battery like that, then you can see we've got the red light. And what I'll do is I'll just snip this off to the right length, so I'll just cut it off flush with the front like that, you see, and there we have our charging light. So now we can put this in the box. Right, so now we can put all this in here. Now you can do this with the battery as well. The battery will actually fit through that hole, but I'm just leaving it off because it's just a little bit easier. So we basically put all the wires through the hole like that, take that all the way into there, and then we push it into place. Try and make sure it's straight like that, you see. And there we go. So now we've got our on-off switch, our charging circuit and our charging status lights all on the outside of the box where we can see them, where all the wires are all on the inside. Splendid. Right, now the first things we need to put on here are our electrical devices. So we need our table with our light on it. So we will put the wires through the little hole that we drilled in the back. Oh, if it would actually go. There's one, there's two. Get in there. Get hold of those from the bottom and pull them through carefully. Like so. Like that. So the table goes there like that. Now what we're going to do is stick that down, and to stick everything down I'm going to use this Mod Podge mat. It's probably the easiest thing. So I'm just going to squeeze some out onto a bit of cardboard like that. And what we will do is get a cocktail stick and just put a little blob of glue on the bottom of the leg there and there, like that, and then we'll pop that down like that, and then we'll put a bit of weight on it. Bottle of all clad, that'll do, if that will stay on there, and we'll put that there to hold that in place while it dries. The rest of it will all be fine, it's just this particular one, it's a little bit tricky because obviously the wire's trying to pull it around a little bit. So that's that. Now we can start bringing in our other pieces. Some of these bits we're not going to stick down, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Next thing that goes on is our small filing cabinet. Bit of glue on the bottom of there, and we'll drop that in place like that. And then the larger filing cabinets go on like that. It doesn't need a huge amount of glue, it just needs enough just to hold it in place I'll put that one just a little bit out from the wall slightly so it's not dead square like that. Next we've got this folder that I made. I quite like that. And that will just get a little touch of glue on the back, and I'm going to put that on top of this filing cabinet like that. There we go. Next we can put our desk on. So we'll just put some glue on the legs like that, and we can pop that in place over here like that. There we go. Now we've got another little folder here, and I'm going to put this on the floor. Still got some blue tack on the back of it, get rid of that. I'm going to put this on the floor next to the table like it's fallen off and onto the floor. So that will go down there like that. Right, now that table goes on there. I'm not going to stick that table down, that's one of the pieces that won't be stuck down. But I am going to put a couple of pieces on this table. So I'll just put a little touch of glue there, and we'll take our hammer and drop that on like that, and our axe will go on there as well. The Mod Podge will dry clear, so you won't be able to see it once it's dried. Like that. And again, it only needs the tiniest amount. It's just to hold it so that it doesn't rattle about. So that's that. I can't put the stuff obviously on the table yet because there's a big bottle of big bottle of stuff in the way. Now we've got our big packing crate. This is going to go over here to hide the hole in the wall. So we'll put a bit of glue on the bottom and a bit up the top here like that, and then we'll pop that in place there, and I will put a peg on that to hold it in place. I'll put the clamp on there like that to hold that, and then I've got another crate that goes there in front of it like that. And then a small one so we'll go on the top like that. There we go, so that's that. Now we need to put our chair on, and that's going to go over here, and like it's been knocked over backwards onto the floor. So a little bit of glue on the back of there. And drop that in place about there, like that. Right, this is all looking very promising. So most of what's left needs to go in this corner over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until this table has dried, and then we'll start putting all the stuff in at this end, because I don't want to start knocking that table about. So to dry, and we'll come back in a minute. Right, I'm just going to put the door frame on. I'm not going to put the doors on yet, because well, there's a reason for that will become apparent later. So just put some glue across the bottom here. See, what you basically want with this kind of glue is you want enough to kind of grab the surface of whatever you're putting it on, but not so much that it'll all come oozing out the sides, because as I've mentioned before, when it comes to gluing things, the glue that oozes out the sides isn't doing anything and it's just a waste. So right, let's pop this in here, and that needs to go like, oh, get on there, like that. And we will try and peg that, if that will reach, which it will. Let's put that up by the corner there to make sure it's got it. And we'll put one on the other side, if that will reach, which it will. And then we get our bottle again and push that up there to hold the bottom in place. I'll put two there, like that, you see. And they can hold that. I want to put the sign on as well, but I can't really put it on at the moment because it's there's too much stuff in the way. Okay, let's leave that to dry. There's going to be a lot of leaving things to dry with this, so... Right, let's put some bits on the table now that we can. We'll start with this can. Ugh. That can go there. Just got to be a little bit careful because there's still some things on this diorama that I don't want you to see yet. Got a little plate here. That can go there. Oh, if it didn't stick to the... Let's turn that around a little bit. Can go there. I'll put these bits on this table here, I think. So let's just bring that back in. there. Put that at the back there like that. Right, let's take this table out of the way for a second. Right, and this chair can go there like that. Okay. Right, I think we're really starting to get somewhere now. Once again, we'll just leave all this to dry for a minute. Right, so that's all on. I've still got a few bits to put on, but what I want to do now is just drill this hole in the floor. This is where the wires are going to go for the squad leader's torch. So we'll drill down through the MDF and then straight through the bottom and out the bottom of the diorama. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now we can get our squad leader in, and we need to feed these wires down through the hole and out the bottom. That's one. Let's get these in place. Oh. Oh. Right. So he'll go there like that. I'm not going to pin his other foot yet, again for reasons that will become clear in the not too dim and distant future. But we'll just leave him there like that for a second, and what I want to do now is bring the box back in and connect these wires up. Right, so I've just twisted the wires together off of the two lights on the base. Now we will lift this up and put the box in, and then bring the diorama in on top like that. Right, so now I'm going to use this. I don't know if you've ever shown these before. This is a terminal block, but it's spring loaded. So what we're going to do is we'll take our wires from the charging circuit. Like that, and like that, and then we put the wires in from the diorama like that and like that, and then we pop this back on the top like that. Let's try and get him somewhere near where he wants to be. And now this is not the greatest angle in the world, but if I turn the switch on, we have lights, which is nice. Right, doesn't look too bad, does it? I've just turned off all the lights in the workshop, and that's actually looking quite good. It's still quite bright because unfortunately the cameras that I'm using are both exceptionally good at working in low light conditions, and so they have a tendency to compensate very well for the low light. But yeah, I think we're I don't think we're doing too bad at all there. And last but not least, these pliers, which I will just drop on the table right there. Right, so now we just need to leave all of this to dry. So normally at this point I would do the big reveal and say to you, here is the finished article. But this time we're going to do something a little bit different. Now you will notice that the diorama is not yet populated with all the figures. It still doesn't have the doors on it. And that is for a very good reason. I have always been a firm believer that dioramas should tell a story. And this one in particular tells a story. And so I thought, rather than tell you that story with words, I would show you that story. And so I've kind of stepped way out of my comfort zone with this, and I've enlisted the aid of some very dear friends who have given me their time and their talents to help. And so without further ado, let me show you why I am calling this diorama Language Barrier.
This place gives me the creeps, Sarge. Why do we gotta come in here?
Quit your whining, Kowalski. Brass says to check someplace out. We go check it out. They don't tell me why, and I don't ask. You know why I don't ask? Because every time I ask, they say,
Don't ask.
All right, let's get this done and get out of here. Let's check through here. Watch those corners.
Jeez, it's dark in here. You got a light, Sarge?
Okay, spread out and look around.
What the hell is this blue shit? The fuck were they doing down here?
Cut the yap, Kowalski. Nobody touched nothing unless I says so.
You got a big fucking door here, Sarge. Chained shut. There's some kind of message painted on it.
Well, what does it say?
Beats me. I don't speak crowd.
Okay, you got the cutters. Get it open.
I'm on it. Cover me. Jesus Christ!
Crap.
Get this
What the
thing
fuck
the
is
hell
happening?
off me!
Shoot it.
Open fire! Pour it on!
Holy crap, Sarge. Let's get the hell out of here.
Okay, shut it, Kowalski. We're going. Big Joe, you okay?
I'll be okay, Sarge. But that goddamn son of a bitch bit me, for Christ's sake.
And here is our finished article at long last. I hope you enjoyed the little show I put together for you. It was something that kind of occurred to me while I was doing this, that obviously there was a story that I wanted to tell, and I thought the static image would kind of tell the story. I just wanted to flesh it out a little bit and try something a bit new and a bit more interesting. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that. It was a bit of a step outside of the comfort zone for me. I've never done anything like that before, but I quite enjoyed doing it, and I might well do some more of those in the future. But anyway, as far as the diorama goes, obviously this was a bit of a slog, this one. Quite a few long videos, but I wanted to kind of give you guys as much of an insight into the build process as I could. And so I hope you enjoyed it all, and for those of you that have stuck with me through to the end and stuck with the adventures of Sarge, Big Joe and Kowalski, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.